right, go back to my timer.
Have a cigarette, Ricky?
Yes, sir.
Okay, are you ready, Chuck? And kind of up to snuff on. Oh. All righty.
Like 2 miles.
All right. Okay. Welcome to the Crypto Show.
You're being joined today by world-famous war photographer Robert King, who's been filming me nonstop for many days. So you can say hello to Robert here.
Hello, good gentleman.
Oh, hello, Robert King.
Hello, Robert King.
Very famous, very famous. And this was a gentleman, by the way, who was with me during my escape from Belize, documenting that entire process. What's happening?
Okay, you ready to kick it off? We're going to do a little intro, and then we'll introduce you and start talking about how much taxes you have to pay. All right, here we go. Welcome to the Crypto Show's Digital Cash Evolution right here on the Bloomberg Network, and today we are talking with the infamous John McAfee. That's our second presidential candidate today that we've had on. We just finished up with Ron Paul, and now we're talking with John McAfee. So it's a president. Is it President's Day, Chuck, or what?
I guess so. On the Crypto Show, it is.
Awesome.
We're in the eye of the storm, brother.
Or almost President's Day.
Almost president, and we're also joined.
Ron Paul would make a far greater president than I could ever dream of. By the way, I'm just saying that. Right?
And so would Len Ulbricht, who's also in studio with us.
Hi, John.
Absolutely. Yeah.
John, I'm always, John is so great because when he was running for president, he told me he would definitely pardon Ross. And I've always appreciated that so much.
So, we came very close to having Sherry Peel Jackson on the show with us today, which would have been pretty good to have, that kind of information about taxes. And so, John, you've made some statements recently on Twitter that you haven't paid in a little while and don't intend to.
You want to discuss why you're not your taxes anymore?
Why we're not what now?
About paying taxes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. The question is what now? Not paying taxes.
Not paying your taxes.
No, I haven't paid taxes. Involved returns. Number one, I believe that it is slavery to work for the government 3 months out of the year. That's what was defined. Ownership of your body or the fruits of your labor. Slavery. So, number one, does the government believe that they own our bodies? I think so. They tell us how to act. They also tell us what we may or may not even put into our bodies, as if they own them. They act like we're slaves financially by forcing us to work for them for free. Now, if you look at the legal case that deemed such arguments as frivolous, the fact that we're slaves, that this is constitutional. Nevertheless, yes, I have not paid taxes. It answers the question.
Okay.
Well, the government seems to be intervening in our signal right now.
Yes, it does, doesn't it?
So I think I picked up a lot of that. I guess one of the questions that I would have is, how do you respond to people who question your financial decision or accuse you of privilege?
The question, what, sir?
How do you respond?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. How do you respond to those people who question your financial decisions or accuse you of privilege?
What privilege do I have? I'm freaking tired. If the average person stopped paying taxes, probably wouldn't notice for years. No, when I stop paying taxes and notice, is that privilege? I am a target. Is that privilege? If it is, then I am a very privileged person. AT&T, so I'm buying. And I'm buying one because my phones get tapped by everybody within minutes of me getting them. So every month I buy a new telephone.
Oh, wow.
Will you help me with it? And say hello to the AT&T clerks.
Hello,
AT&T. All right. So, Janice, you know what I want? Would you get it for me while I talk to these people? Thank you. Another S9. Buy an S9, folks. And if you're an Apple user, honestly, you need to look at yourself in the mirror. Buy an S9. Buy the latest Apple. Take a picture. Look at the difference. Please, God, you're 15 years behind in technology. If you are an Android user, the S9 is still the only phone that cannot be remotely rooted. For those security-minded folks, take my advice. I'm sorry for intruding with a marketing hype from me, but there it is.
Oh no,
It's good.
I ran over my Apple phone with my truck when they took the Bitcoin wallet off back in 2013. So
Protest. So that brings me to the next question, which is, I think, relevant to the discussion. What are your general beliefs around property rights, and especially intellectual property? I'm curious.
Property rights. If we're talking about physical property, yes, I think we all have rights to it. We have worked for it, or we've stolen it, which is some kind of work, or it was passed to us by our parents, which is no work at all. But nevertheless, yes, I believe in property rights. We have to have them. We have to have something which we call as ours to live upon and to hide within and to make our home, our family, the thing that we think about when we're away from it. So yeah, we have to have property rights. Intellectual property, I think that's the biggest garbage in the face of the planet. Please God, do you think I invented antivirus software? Well, maybe it came to my mind along with 1,000 other people simultaneously. I just jumped on it first. If you think you have intellectual property, then please God, you are disrespecting the tens of millions of people who came before you, who left the knowledge that you have sucked up from which you had an idea. No, sir, I do not believe in it. I'm solidly with the Chinese on that.
Very interesting. That's a great perspective. And so how do you respond to people who, want to patent things and want to, suggest that you patent things? How do you work in this regulated environment?
When they suggest that I patent things, I just die laughing. When they want to patent things, they're adults. They can work it out for themselves.
Very interesting. So what projects are you most excited about these days?
Oh, cryptocurrency, obviously. The privacy coins. Why? Hey, listen, if everybody in crypto knew that, if you sent me money or I sent you coins, instantly I have access to everything that you do. How much you have in your wallet, what came in, what goes out, what addresses it goes to and comes from. Please God, if your bank allowed others to do that, you would change banks or file suit or go in and shoot somebody. But no, this is the real world in Bitcoin and Ethereum and almost all of the coins. So privacy coins, this is the year of the privacy coin. Now, coins like Monero, they've been around for years and they're faring very well. Try to buy something on the dark web with Bitcoin. They would laugh at you, people using Monero. All the privacy coins that will start, obviously, with the dark web. Why? This is how all privacy things begin. Doesn't mean they're bad. It simply means that those people who need privacy most will adopt them the soonest. So this is the year of the privacy coin, and almost every privacy coin I support. Almost.
So what do you think about the up and coming market of security token offerings? Just out of curiosity.
Well, no, that's a different security. Okay. Those are securities as defined by the Securities and Exchange Commission. All right. And these tokens meet those requirements of the SEC and make it safe for American investors to invest in it. I think that's, again, is utter nonsense. The SEC has no business in crypto.
Very interesting. Very, very stark perspectives here as an entrepreneur. So, it seems like you have a very large perspective of this kind of global society. What do you think the planet needs most to improve its general state of society?
Self-awareness, for fuck's sake. We are lost in our smartphones. We are lost in the media. We believe anything that someone tells us, as long as it's packaged in wording that we can fucking relate to. Please, God, we are idiots. We are naive. And why do we have an overburdening government which has gone totally insane and totally corrupt? Because we have allowed it to without any sort of complaint. None. Well, I complain about everything.
I do have to agree with you on this. I call it the conditioning. I have this perspective, and maybe you can comment and discuss this, but I have this belief that we are conditioned by our families, by our culture, by school, by higher education, by hierarchical systems of work and military, to have this superstition in authority, which essentially takes away the self-awareness that I think you're referring to. Would you want to comment on that?
Well, obviously conditioning. First and foremost, we have forgotten to unteach laziness in our children. We are in a lazy society. What is easiest is what we will do, even if we see that something is totally fucked up. So we are living in a government that's corrupt. Well, you know what? I'm kind of comfortable. I eat well, and I'm dressed, and I have a puppy dog and a girlfriend. What do I need to worry about? It's that attitude. It's the attitude that I am separated from everything else that's happening, that you're not actually a connected member of this society. But hell, you are. You cannot disconnect by merely staying at home and relating to the world through this little box here called the smartphone. That does not separate you in any way, shape, or form. You are part of this society as much as me, who's standing here taking all kinds of flack, metaphorically, from everyone. The privileged person, the target. That's why I am here. No one else will fight. Well, others will do it, of course, but you, I'm doing it for you. In reality, I'm doing it for my children and my grandchildren. If you don't have children, maybe you will one day. And if you do, you will understand. You have to stand up for them. You have to give them a better world. And there
That's
you have
great.
it. I want to introduce this moment to my campaign manager, Rob Loggia. How you doing? One of the smartest I've ever met. And he was my campaign manager when I ran on the Libertarian ticket in 2016. We had a lot of fun together, and we're continuing to. So
going to have a lot of fun this year.
And people out there who want to support this campaign or just want to laugh at it or say that you've donated to a bunch of idiots or whatever, please contact this man right here at Loggia on Fire. At Loggia on Fire on Twitter, or Loggia at loggiaonfire.com. All right.
And because of the signal in the beginning, do you want to let's rehash the thing about the taxes? We mentioned coming in that Sherry Peel Jackson was a former IRS agent who went through all of the laws and said that there is no law that actually says that you have to pay taxes. And,
absolutely. It's against the law to demand that we pay them. It is illegal to make taxes. And so it is unconstitutional. We have the right not to pay, because by paying especially income taxes, we become slaves of the government. Please God.
Right.
Please God.
So do you want to just, like I said, we broke up in the beginning. I wanted to get your take on the tweet that you put out about not paying taxes, and for how long was that?
8 years. I have not filed a tax form in 8 years. Now, this is not the first time I've stated this publicly, and the IRS certainly knows I have not filed. But yeah, so I'm making it public again. I'm throwing it in their face. They have to respond. Why? Because I want them to respond. I want to be able to have the news go, Jesus, what's happening here, John? And let me tell you what's happening. Let me tell you about horrors like the grand jury. Do you know what a grand jury is? It's a collection of up to 23 people, from 16 to 23 people, that only the government may call and only the prosecutor may talk to. And the prosecutor is not obligated to say anything good about the accused that they happen to know about.
Well,
all the evidence presented in a grand jury cannot be seen by the accused.
Well, the next time that you're attacked by a ham sandwich, you will appreciate that grand jury can indict a ham sandwich.
Absolutely. That's exactly what judges have said. And here's the problem, though. It's not just that they're rubber stamped. The problem is the following. We have lost all of our rights in this process because I don't have a right to address the grand jury. They have a right to subpoena me, to make me come for questioning, but I may not bring a lawyer. I have to go by myself, and what I say may be used against me. They're giving that person no information about what the charges are and what people have testified for about you. You tell me, how fair is that? Please,
well, it's against the Constitution says you have a right to face your accusers. So it's
yes,
a
absolutely.
violation of the Constitution.
Now, there are only two countries in the world that are still using this antiquated system that stems all the way back to the Inquisition of the Spanish, where prosecutors had enormous powers to charge people, and only prosecutors could present evidence. Only two countries use this, America and Liberia. Please, God, see the nonsense here. Our government is using grand juries as an illegal club to beat the crap out of American citizens, knowing they will always win. See, it's insane. Nevertheless, I will calm down. And
So, so since you haven't filed taxes in 8 years, what does it look like when you have to fill out the financial forms for running for president?
Well, I mean, I will get around to that probably 4 years after I run. I don't know. That's another thing. Listen, I'm already saying, don't vote for me. I have no intention of winning and don't want the job. All I want is the national stage so that I can promote one thing, freedom for the American people through financial independence, through cryptocurrency. End of story.
So on
Now,
that note,
if someone wants my financial information, I'll be really frank with you. I don't have a clue. I'm 73. I can barely spell my name now, let alone keep count of multiple financial things. So I will tell the truth as I know it, which is I don't have a goddamn clue. If they don't like that answer, they can come and get more.
Very nice. So how are you contributing to this this cryptocurrency movement? What are you most spending your time doing these days?
I'm not contributing anything. I'm just enjoying myself. Well, I mean, I happen to like it. I'm doing a lot of tweets about it. I do not think I've heard it any, although some people may disagree. A lot of people say I'm a horrible spokesman for the crypto.
Well, when the connection dies, yes, it's hard to be
Yeah, you broke up there, John.
Yeah, we lost you, John. I hope you're still out there.
I'd love to quickly comment on this grand jury thing. I think it's great he's bringing it up, but because of course Ross was indicted in Maryland, and the indictment included murder for hire charges that were never brought to trial in New York and were recently, in last June, dismissed with prejudice. But they used it and kept it in the space for 5 years to poison his case and poison his reputation. And, this is one of the clubs that prosecutors use. Prosecutors have essentially taken over our justice system. They're running the courtrooms, and they're out of control. And judges are saying this too. So I thought it was really interesting he brought that up. And it's just one more thing that the government and the justice system is using against citizens.
Yeah, I think for the audience, one interesting experiment might be to put in quotes in Google, prosecutors will decide, and you can look at all of the videos where the phrase prosecutors will decide the fate, the decisions, the choice, whether to put them in jail. Prosecutors will decide, and there's no mention of the jury of peers. There's no mention of any kind of due process. You're right. Prosecutors are deciding.
Yeah. I was told by a defense attorney who used to be a prosecutor, he said, Lynn, they will cheat, they will lie, they will do whatever it takes to win, get that notch in their belt. It's all about their career. And they are corrupting our justice system.
Indeed. Well, I hope we get John McAfee back. Danny, did you want to come back to Lynn and maybe we can discuss a little bit more about Ross and comments on what we've already discussed with John? I really... some of the, I really like his kind of general philosophical perspective, and it seems that he's very genuine and honest about, hey, I haven't contributed anything to this space. I'm just excited to be a part of it. And I'll be honest, like as a software developer, I've been trying to work very hard to contribute myself, but there's so much moving and so much happening that it's hard to feel like I've really contributed. There's this, what do they call it? Imposter syndrome. But, do you guys want to discuss that a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm curious about your comments and thoughts on that.
I don't know. I mean, I can just say that I know Ross feels so cut off and wishes he could contribute to it. We send him charts, and he has written a couple of things about Bitcoin, but mainly he focuses on the underlying principles and philosophy of it that I think, and I've been told that many people entering the space now that are new don't understand or don't care about. And I think it would be a terrible thing if that were lost. But I think there's also enough people who got into it for those principles that it's still there. And I can tell that because people at Bitcoin conferences actually come to hear me speak, and I don't know much about cryptocurrency technically. So I think those ideas are inspiring. I think that essentially we all have something within us, and I mean people all around the world that want to be free. Maybe there's people who would rather be safe and don't want to be free, but I think it's inherent in many people that they want to be free. And that's what it represents, really. And that's what both the other guests said. Dr. Paul and John McAfee both said that. It's all about that principle.
Indeed. Yeah, I have to agree with that. And coming back to some of John's statements, I think it's very interesting how, he hasn't filed taxes in 8 years. And a thought just occurred to me, like, is Ross filing taxes from prison? Do you know how that works?
Oh, no, well, he has no income. So, no, I don't think, no, he's not.
No, I don't think
I think I would have heard about it. They have no income to tax, so they don't care.
I see.
About that.
Yeah. Right. Okay. And
I mean,
then
I don't know the law behind it, but no.
Well, and I struggled early on in my career with this idea of intellectual property. I mean, you guys might know I'm a patented developer, but I'm only listed as an inventor on the patent, and which means somebody else commissioned it and somebody else made the money on it. And I struggled with that as an inventor who contributed to an idea that was then sold and for millions and millions of dollars. And basically, I didn't get anything out of that except a notch on the belt and a little bit of prestige. And man, I sure try to leverage that everywhere I can.
Yeah.
But I landed in the place not too long after that where I now agree with John's perspective, where intellectual property is probably something that shouldn't really exist. I mean, I think that words and language could have been considered intellectual property. To me, it's the equivalent of trying to own a word. I mean, they do that, right? With trademarks and copyrights, right? People try to own words, but there's this interesting space where you get this thing out there and you want credit, but there's this weird idea that's been planted in people's mind. And I think this is more conditioning that words and ideas can actually be owned. If you're putting it out there and it should be protected, and that you should get a monopoly around that for some number of years and things like that. I don't necessarily agree with that at this point. I think that a lot of the spirit of software development is about sharing, communicating, growing, and building the intellectual space and creating self-awareness and contributing to society in meaningful ways. I think John and I are in alignment. Interestingly, I'm just learning on that. Do you guys want to comment on that?
I'm sorry, I'm sending a message right now.
I see you're busy, Danny. Sorry.
No, I think you said it really well. It's something I haven't given a ton of thought to be honest. I'm pretty immersed in some other things, but it's certainly given me food for thought.
Yeah, I mean, we're all working from different angles toward this very common space of individual freedom, right? And individual liberty. So, I think that there is an alignment there, and no matter how we come to it, it's like people who come to spirituality, they come from all different angles. People who come to freedom, people who come to these very fundamental ideas of, what is it to be a human? They come from a lot of different spaces, and some people it's because they've been punished by a controlling system of government and finance, and for other people it's getting ideas quote unquote stolen and sold and really receiving no credit for that kind of thing, and that causes suffering and pain. John, are you back with us?
There he is.
I see you.
You're muted, John.
We'll give him a moment. You might need to unmute, John.
Yeah, your phone is still muted. Are you there, John?
Yeah, we can see you, but maybe unmute yourself there. Did somebody take control of your phone? You did say that was a problem.
Yeah. There's nothing there about muting, so he must be muted.
Okay.
Yeah, he must be muted on his end. Go ahead then.
Well, so we're about half past the hour. I think, I mean, if I didn't have any more questions for John, we did thankfully get through the questions that I had for him. I really liked his response on, the needs for society of self-awareness. My wife and I completely agree with that. He looks like he's still trying to work with the muting. Are you with us, John? Did you figure out how to unmute your side, or is it?
Well, while you're waiting, I just want to quickly say, because I thought it was very true, what he was saying is that people just don't think they're part of society, and they're all, they have what they need right now. And I often say, we're at a tipping point in history right now. Things are moving very quickly. And I've seen it through Ross's case and the expansion of the surveillance state and the government's intrusion into our lives. And it's easy not to look at it. It's uncomfortable to look at it. But we're at a crossroads. And if we don't go down the road of freedom and innovation, we're going to get pushed down another road that is going to be government control and intrusion. And we're not going to have the kind of amazing blessings that we actually have, and the potential for good for humanity. So
I think we can hear you now, John. Yes, thank you, Lynn.
All right, thank you. Don't know what happened, government interference or an old man's stubby fingers, but I'm back now.
Awesome.
Perfect. Well, we were just discussing some of your responses. I was just sharing with them my agreement about the need for self-awareness, and I don't know if I got to ask specifically, how are you contributing to the world about bringing and raising that self-awareness? Is it through these actions of challenging government and challenging institutions? Is that your method?
Well, I think absolutely, and not just that. Less than challenging the government institutions, challenging the American public, challenging you, for example, by putting out a video of me mixing a drink. God knows why people love those things, but they do, and talking about something real, like what does a grand jury really mean? Are we really slaves of our government? Has our government, in fact, gone insane? Is it, in fact, corrupt? Getting people to think about these things, while simultaneously jabbing at those very institutions that are corrupt, that have gone insane.
So that leads me to think, as you're talking about this whole movement of not just socialism, but these social justice warriors, as I think they're called. How do you address that camp of humanity that really is the bleeding heart and cares for other people and virtue signals about, we're doing the right thing, and yet will leverage government to infringe on other people's freedoms? How do you comment on that?
Well, I mean, you mentioned about the people who are interested in this, social justice. What does social justice actually mean? Doesn't it mean allowing the individual, the citizen, to just be free, totally free? Because you can be free and not need laws any more than don't harm another person. Don't take their stuff, and tell the truth. Do you need any more than this? We have 600,000 laws in this country passed in various states by various state, local, and federal governments. Please, God, see the insanity of this. So social justice means to free ourselves from those things that others do not have to concern themselves with. For example, what you choose to put into your mind. There were times when we could not even teach Darwinism, and you have no concept about how much the media and the government restricts you from seeing and reading certain things. Not that you can't, but that it takes a lot of trouble for you to do so, which is the same thing. So yes. So I believe anybody who wants to bring awareness to the fact that we are buying lock, stock, and barrel into a system which deceives us and takes our freedoms, then that person I want to work with.
And what kind of work are you focusing on besides these challenging efforts that you're doing? I mean, you've got this film crew following you around. You've got this campaign manager. You want to raise awareness with a presidential campaign that you don't want to be a president.
Yes, I don't want to be a president. Neither. Listen, if I did want, here's the problem: we elect officials who want the job. Now you have to be crazy to want. No, think about it. The true job is to serve the people. Who wants to be a servant? Yet people are paying millions of dollars to get a job which only pays $250,000 a year. Run the numbers, people. There's something wrong here. They're not at the job to serve you, because I'm not paying money to serve your sorry ass. I may do it if you shame me into it or make me, but I sure as fuck am not paying you for this, for serving you. All right. Now, this is the fundamental issue, the fundamental fucking problem. Okay. We don't think beyond what is told, beyond what is sufficient for us to say, we have thought it through. We don't think anything through. Nothing. We think about what's happening now, what's here, and what I want today.
Indeed,
and what's happening tomorrow, fuck that shit. And this is the problem for all of these things. Let's get down to the meat of the issue. We are lazy, and that laziness is manifesting in our complete obliviousness to what may happen tomorrow because of our decisions today.
So it sounds like you're using a concern or fear, a general concern or fear about what's happening with our society. Can you articulate what that fear is?
My fear, or the fear that the society has?
Your fear about the society.
My fear about the society is that we're just not going to wake up. That our technology has made so many decisions for us that we are reluctant to make any now for ourselves. And
so I have to agree.
I'm sorry?
I have to agree with you there. I completely agree. I think that it's don't you agree that it's very much easier to adopt a belief and work in that adopted belief than to do the thinking and come up with your own solution? Or
even to think through the adopted belief to see that it is self-sufficient in terms of its logic and worldview. No, we're not even willing to do that. And the problem is we are born and raised in this society, in this culture, in this America, which is nothing like it was intended to be.
That's right.
And was at one point in time. It has twisted itself into a nightmare of mechanical beings that have one goal in mind: stay in office and take more from the American people. Please God, see that truth. Doesn't take much thinking to reach that conclusion.
I think that I personally see that, but don't you agree that it is a minority of people that are even willing or capable of seeing that truth?
Well, people can be made willing. If I slap people around verbally enough, they pay attention. If I offend them enough, they pay great attention. Not just to my every fucking word, but to my every intonation, so that they can trash me about it. So no, that's one way. Piss people off. Number two, scare them into the truth by saying, please God, look at this simple fact. Are you not terrified for your children and grandchildren? Mm-hmm. There are ways to do it, my friend.
What's your take on the insanity from the left about Orange Man bad, even though he's pulling people out of Syria, pulling people out of Afghanistan, he's going against the Federal Reserve? I mean, all of this is unexpected. I'd never imagined that Trump would be doing all of this, and now he is. So what do you think?
It's politics. Who cares? It really doesn't matter who's president in the long run. Sure, maybe for 4 years you have an up and you enjoy that, and then you have the opposite and you don't enjoy that. But in all seriousness, look at what happens. One administration does whatever they want. The next comes in and reduces it to rubble as if it never happened. Obamacare is an example. Please God, see the truth of our political system. It doesn't matter who's in charge. It really does not. We are still slaves. We are still burdened by this monumental, overbearing, inflated thing that we have created called the United States government. Wake the fuck up, people.
So I have this belief that government is actually really, really good at a couple things, and maybe you can comment on this. I think government is really, really good at stealing things and murdering people. Discuss?
Well, absolutely. Well, first of all, let's talk about what a government is. A government is a collection of citizens, just like us. It's just that we have stupidly given them all the power, all right? We as citizens are equal to them as citizens until we say, here, you people take the power. Now, how crazy are we, considering this vast country with all of its possibilities of people who do want to serve that can be shamed into doing it? So now, aren't we the insane ones? We take a small part of our country, a small part of our government, give them all the power and all the money, and of course they want to keep it forever. Of course they want to keep their offices. Why? We gave them everything, and they gave us nothing. Wake the fuck up again, people. Nothing did they give us. So, yes, you need to please let me finish. This is super important. Governments are made up of people like us. Who are we? We're a mixed bag. We love, we hate. We have grace. We're stingy. We're gracious and unkind. We are fearful and hopeful. We are a mixed bag. When we get into fights as citizens, as individuals, if I'm angry, a bloody nose may result, and we buy a beer afterwards. Governments are people magnified in every respect, including their negatives. When we get angry, a bloody nose. When a government gets angry, what happens? Entire nations are destroyed. Millions are killed, and thousands go hungry. When we get greedy and someone comes to dinner and eats the whole fucking turkey, we don't invite them next year. When governments get greedy, what happens? They steal from the weakest, and people starve. Please see that governments are the worst of humanity. Why? Because which of the feelings and the attitudes and emotions that people have are the strongest? Hope or fear? You ask yourself. It's fear.
And then they weaponize that.
Always takes over.
They weaponize that despair, like refugees getting flushed into Europe from Syria and everywhere. So they're kind of using this migration as a weapon as well.
Yes, of course.
So what would you recommend to the average citizen, besides, following you and listening to you? How would these people gain this awareness that might bring them into a place of greater liberty and contribution to society?
Wow. Now, the question itself indicates the tragic state of our culture and our society. To try to tell people how to make themselves aware of where they are, what they're doing, what world they're living in, who they pay their taxes to, why they pay those taxes, and what that entity does with that money. And I need to tell you how to be aware of that.
Well, maybe some recommendations. I'm thinking, do you have any?
Well, again, and that was only the first part of that. I go, yes, sure. We do have to make you aware of that. And I'm trying to best again through my shock tactics. Whale fucking. Now tell me that doesn't piss a bunch of people off, including all the whale lovers in the world. So yes, why? Because it polarizes. And when people are polarized, they do one thing at least. They pay the fuck attention. They pay attention. And if I have the will and the resilience to stand in the face of horrific egg throwing and tomato throwing, metaphorically, then I will be heard. I will be heard. I won't be heard if I fight back against that torrent. No,
I accept it. Yes, I'm an asshole. Yes, I am. Now, listen to me. For fuck's sake, wake up. Yes, people will do that, my friend.
So what inner resilience do you draw from? Like, what is there a mantra? Is there something that drives you? How do you stay motivated in this effort?
I have children and grandchildren. I don't
That's
know how
my answer too, John. You love your children and you want them to have a life. You don't want them to
there's no rationale for it, because
it's emotional.
there's no worse horror in the world other than having them and raising them. However, okay, you cannot help them. You cannot help them. And because you cannot help but love them, there's no rhyme to why you do what you do. You do what you can for your children. And what I do for my children, believe me, it's what I'm doing for your children.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not purposely doing it for your children, but trust me, they will benefit just as greatly. And if you have children and you cannot at least see that if you do not act in some way, that you are passing to them a worse world than you were born into.
Mm-hmm.
This would be the reverse. That I challenge all of you to look at. And many of you, probably most of you listening to this, don't have children, but you might.
Well, I'm realizing that all of us here indeed do have children. All of us here who are giving of our time to try to get, a unified or some kind of synonymous message of freedom and liberty out to people. We indeed do have children. I think there may be something to this, that in order to value the future of humanity, you probably have to create a little bit of future of humanity yourself.
Well, yes, of course you do.
Just that simple.
Speaking of children, are there any children watching this? Never pick up a fucking cigarette, and I mean that.
I'm very blessed. My kids haven't done that.
Do as I say, not as I do. But addictions are a thing, right? And I think that's something that is manipulated by the psychological controllers of our society. They know that there are hormones that humans that motivate humans: endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and they play on all of those things in order to get us to stay on Facebook a little bit longer, to watch that next YouTube, to start that.
Absolutely. They are all masters of one art called neuro-linguistic programming. You should look this up. The government mastered it years ago, where the actual words themselves, if you use the right tense and use the right placement, can actually change a person's mind about the most difficult of all subjects. Look at this shit, because we're being played by it today.
Right.
Neuro-linguistic programming.
I looked into NLP, I want to say around 2004. I learned a bit about it, and I realized shortly thereafter that life is a game. If you're not designing it, you're probably being played. You want to
that's
comment
correct.
on that?
This is the absolute truth. Now, I enjoy both being played and playing. Why? Because by being played, I learn the tricks of the trade. I get into people's minds who have things that I have not thought about. But I am the maker of my game, at least, and the world in which I live. Because somebody with some sense has to. Not that I have sense, but at least I see the world as it is.
So does that evoke a time in your life when you realized that indeed it was a game and that you did have choices and that you needed to start making some choices? When did that begin for you?
When I was 11, that's when I became an entrepreneur. That's when I realized that the only escape from parents, teachers, police, the mayor, society at large was money. End of story. And so I began at the age of 11 mowing yards, shoveling snow in the wintertime. At 12, I had every newspaper route in the town of Salem, Virginia, and was subcontracting out to other kids. By the time I was 14, I had more money in the bank than my parents. And by the time I was 16, if I was legal for me to leave home, I could have survived on the money that I'd made for the rest of my life.
Wow.
That links back to your comment about laziness and how, it's really an industry like that is linked to being free and being a person who has critical thinking and all of that and can create their lives.
And critical acting. This is
Yeah.
the issue. If
Right.
you can think all day long, but you will do nothing without action.
Right.
And at the age of 11, kids have nothing but energy for action. So I got in at the right place.
So I'm concerned now that there may be a bit of cognitive dissonance being created in our audience because, you know, I asked you earlier and we discussed this a little bit while you were disconnected about how you seem to be very authentic about, hey, I'm not contributing to the cryptocurrency space, right? But at the same time, you're saying, hey, it takes action to make these kinds of moves in the world and everybody's lazy. So how do you reconcile those two ideas?
Well, if you think I'm not taking action within the field of cryptocurrency, then you haven't noticed that I've been at every single conference and I've keynoted almost every single conference, including the crypto cruises. What is my Twitter account? 75% crypto. What do I say about it? Very critical thinking things. So, you know, you ask if it was contributing. I have no clue if that contributes or not, but it sure is action. All right.
Okay. All right. Good. That's a great answer. I am impressed. Okay. So are you going to be at the North American Bitcoin Conference in Miami this month?
I will not. No, sir.
Okay. That's unfortunate because the crypto show will be broadcasting live with 880 The Biz there. And
I wish I could attend. I have a conflict. I'm speaking in Japan at the same time.
Okay. Well, that's unfortunate. Well, I hope to run into you again soon, sir. Is there anything that you'd like to share with our audience before we depart?
Yes, absolutely. Especially to the younger people who wonder what to do with your lives. Do what you love and only what you love. If you find yourself doing anything else for any reason, whether it's to stay in a relationship in which you're not exactly happy or whatever, don't be afraid. Stop doing it if you don't love it. That's my advice. It's always my advice. It will always be my advice. And thank you.
Awesome.
Nice. Well, thank you, John McAfee, entrepreneur, contributor to the cryptocurrency space by my judgment, and actor of many different ways, philosopher of sorts, and cigarette addict. Thank you for being here.
Shit starter. You forgot shit starter, right?
Shit starter, indeed.
There you go.
Indeed. And non-taxpayer, right?
Taxation.
Yes.
All right.
All right, you guys, and ask me on anytime.
Okay.
I'd be more than happy.
Perfect. Thanks, John.
To help
Good
you.
to see you, John.
All righty.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.